Hi guys, this is Jamie Magridge. Welcome to Jamie's Craft Table. Today I'm going to show you how I made this. This is I gotta turn it sideways so it fits in the camera. It's a covered notebook. There's a cover on the back as well. And let's get started. And this is, I'm going to be using Magenta Madness, Misty Moonlight, and Mento Tuxedo Black. I'm using this delicate Dahlias, which is from the Celebration. I'm using this one and this one. And then I brought in this stamp here from All Things Fabulous. I needed a small filler element. I probably could have used this little leaf if I wanted to, but I brought that in. Okay, for cardstock, this is cut from the scallop contour dies. It's the second from the largest. It's this one. Okay, and that's just white. Back. I have a 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece of Misty Moonlight. I have a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece of black. I have for my binding, this is 2 1/4 inches by 8 1/2 inches, and I've scored it at 3/4 inch and 1 inch. And then I have 2 pieces of Designer Series paper. This is the one side of it. This is the other. This is from that Pattern Party Designer Series paper that you can get it free as a host reward. Now this particular piece is only 11 inches by 8 1/2, but you should do it 11 1/2 inches. The 11 inches will work, but I accidentally cut it too short, and I didn't have any other paper, so I'm going to go ahead and any other of this design, so I'm going to go ahead and use it. And then this one is 12 by 8 1/2, and I've scored the top edge here at 1/2 of an inch. Okay, then I have a pad of notebook. I bought a bunch of them at Sam's Club. They're members mark brand. You could probably get them dollar store even. So you're going to make your papers the width and the height, and the cover will be the height plus whatever depth is. That's how you figure out your papers. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is put that aside. We're going to go ahead and stamp our stamped piece. I'm going to put some scratch paper so I don't overstamp onto my mat. And I do want to show you a little tip. This is a 2-step stamp, so I actually made a permanent marker tick on the both stamps, so I know where they line up. It just made it easier for me without having to fumble with the detail part to figure out where it was. So I'm going to stamp the fancy part first, and I'm going to use my Magenta Madness ink. And I'm actually going to bring in a block, and then I'm going to push the ink down into the pad, because this is a pretty well inked pad. I just find with these detail stamps I get a little bit better of an image. Okay, then I'm going to ink this up. Just tap lightly onto these soft foam pads. Don't want to push down, just want to tap it. I'm going to go ahead and stamp it, and go on to stamp. Well, I guess it doesn't matter. Turn it like that. So I just have to remember where I put that little black spot, so I know where to put the detail part. Okay, so there's that. Perfect. Now I'm going to bring in, yeah, let's do the detail next. Move that aside for a minute. Now this is a different pad. This is a linen on the top. So you gotta push a little bit harder. Go ahead and see if I can line this up. Get my head in there, I'm sorry, but I need to get right over the top. And if it doesn't match perfectly, that's fine. I think I'm way off, but we're going to go with it. It's not too bad. Okay. Now we're going to come in with the leaves. And I'm going to do the leaves in a misty moonlight instead of a green. So I'm going to do this one here. I probably should push the ink off on this one too, but stamp once there. Stamp a few of these leaves around. There's no right or wrong, just get yourself a few leaves in there. Okay. I'm done with the misty moonlight, so I'm going to go ahead and close this. Come in with the memento for the detail part of the leaves. And go ahead and stamp that on. And these I'm not getting lined up quite as well. I didn't on the other one either. It might be easier to actually stamp the detail first and then fill it in. It depends on the stamp, I guess, or the color you're using, because the blue and the black are so close it's hard to line up, or at least for me. But it's designs, it doesn't really matter if it lines up 100%. Okay, let's put the cover on that. I'm done with that. Well, now let's bring in that little detail, or the little bits, and I'm gonna just fill in some of these little areas. I'm just gonna stamp and then fill in like that. I'm just adding just a little bit of something else. Fill in a little bit of. It looked a little empty in a couple, you know, so I'm just giving it a little bit of filler. That looks pretty good. I think that's all I'm going to do. Okay. Now we can start putting this together. Let's bring in these two pieces. Get this right off my desk. Alright, I need some glue. I'm going to glue the 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece on top of the black piece, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I just use those sizes so I would only be using a 1/4 sheet of my colored paper. That way you can get 4 out of 1. Okay. And then this is going to get popped up on dimensionals. And since it's a notebook, I put quite a few dimensionals on here because I didn't want it to get squashed. You don't have to use that many. I just didn't want it to get squashed in use, so I just put lots of dimensionals. Okay, now this is going to get centered on here. Okay, now let's bring in our notebook. Set that aside for a minute, and I'm going to start on the back. I'm going to start with that 11.5 inch piece, or the the 11.5 by 8.5, and in my instance it's only 11. You could do 11 because it works, but I liked it better when I did the 11.5. And you can either use your wet glue. I'm going to go ahead and bring in tear tape. And I want on the back I put this side up, so this doesn't matter. So we're going to do this. We're going to turn it over. We're going to take the tear tape close to the edge as you can get it without going off the edge. Same on the other sides. This is going to get used, so you want to make sure it's glued down well. The wet glue probably would have worked just fine. Okay, and then I'm going to do 1/4 and 1/4. And then a couple bits in here. My bone folder. I'm just going to use this one because it's handy. I'm going to burnish those down well so that I know the tape is sticking down. Okay, come in and take off those backings. Go. Come on. Ah, don't stick to me. The only fiddly part is trying to get the backings off. I don't use this on camera very much. It's just a little bit fiddly. Okay, now to get this on here accurately, I stood the paper up on the counter so that I knew it was flat, and I lined up the bottom edge. And then it should just line up. No, it's not quite right. It's sticking. Oh well, I'm gonna have to go with it. It's a little tiny bit off here. So you might want to make it a little bit wider and then you can trim it off. Take your time with that, and then you'll get it just right. Make it a little bit wider, it'll be easier, and then you can just come in and trim it off. Alright, now I'm going to take this other piece, with a 1/2 inch piece there. We're going to put that tear and tape on there, right on that 1/2 inch strip. And we're going to put it on this piece here, the front of that flat part. I put 2 of them there. Burnish it down. Burnish it down. Okay. Now I'm going to take off this one. I'm going to line this paper up with the bottom and the sides of the notepad. Make sure it's lined up, stand it up, and I'm going to roll that edge over the front. Make sure it's lined up. I'm going to roll it over that top edge. Glue that top edge down. Okay. Now we're going to open it up and we're going to take off these strips. We're going to fold it over. Okay, and then I'm going to bring in this piece, burnish those score lines. And we're going to adhere it on like that. So I'm going to use my wet glue for this. I'm going to adhere this to the back. I probably should use the tear tape, but so I'm adhering this right to the back of the book, to the top. So let's line up the top of the book first. glue this front down. Okay. Rub it well. The heat from your hands causes, the friction causes heat, which causes that glue to set. Okay, then I'm going to come in with a ruler. This part's optional, but I found it helpful. And my bone folder, right here where this meets, I'm going to just do a little quick score. Okay, and that helps this to fold back a little bit neater, right where that top is. So your cover will lift up nice. Go ahead and crease it down. Okay. Now we can come in with our decoration. And I'm going to go ahead and put more dimensionals on the back. You can glue it flat on at this point, but I just wanted it to have a little bit of lift. Three more. Take those backs off. Okay, then center this up here, up towards the top. Adhere it down, and there we go. There's our notebook we just made together. Here's the one I did previously. And you'll see if you take your time, it lines up pretty nicely. If you want to make it just a little bit larger and then trim it, that would work too. And there you go. Well, thank you so much for joining me today at Jamie's Craft Table. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope you can find a little bit of time to play with some stamps, ink, and paper.